Hello and welcome. Tonight, only INEC can determine the mode of collating and transmitting of election results, rules Federal High Court Abuja maintains that manual transmission of 2023 general election results is in line with the Electoral Act 2022. PDP calls for the resignation and investigation of INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu for allegedly breaching the provisions of the 2022 electoral law in the conduct of the February 25 presidential election. National Population Commission rules on conduct of the 2023 population and housing census on March 29th as earlier planned, owing to the postponement of the state-level elections by INEC. Police say 7 people, including an unborn baby, have been killed in a shooting at the Jehovah's Witness meeting hall in the German city of Hamburg.
And on business news tonight, FBN Quest projects 3.2% high economic growth for Nigeria this year on post-election economic reforms, equities market gains, and higher interest rates.
And on sports news tonight, the Flying Eagles of Nigeria have won a bronze medal at the ongoing Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations following a 4-0 bashing of the Carthage Eagles of Tunisia in the third-place match in Egypt.
And from Abuja, Governor Nyesom Wike urges residents of Rivers State to vote for candidates of the PDP during the March 18th governorship and state assembly elections. INEC, that is empowered. The Federal High Court in Abuja has held that it is only INEC that is empowered by law to determine the mode of collating and transmitting election results. In a judgment, Justice Emeka Nwite also added that it is only INEC that has the prerogative to direct how polling units, presiding officers should transfer election results, including the total number of accredited voters and results on the ballot. The judge further held that collating and transferring election results manually in the 2023 general elections cannot be said to be contrary to the relevant provisions of the Electoral Act 2022. While the judgment was in a suit filed by the Labour Party with INEC as the sole defendant, the party had prayed the court to declare that INEC has no power to opt for manual method other than the electronic method provided for by the relevant provisions on the Electoral Act 2022. In a judgment delivered on January the 23rd this year, which includes documents were cited, Justice Nwite held that the plaintiff misconstrued the provisions of the law and proceeded to dismiss the suit. The People's Democratic Party, the PDP, is calling for the resignation and investigation of the chairman of INEC for allegedly breaching the provisions of the 2022 electoral law. The spokesperson of the PDP, Mr. Debo Ologunagba, made the call at a press conference in Abuja. Mr. Ologunagba also calls on the Inspector General of Police, the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and the Department of State Services, the DSS, to commence an investigation on the INEC chairman. And to legal matters now in other stories. In Abuja this time, where the Supreme Court has affirmed Mr. Rufai Hanga as the senator-elect for Kano Central Senatorial District under the platform of New Nigeria People's Party. The Apex Court also removed former governor of Kano State, Ibrahim Shekarau, as the candidate of the NNPP in the February 25 National Assembly election. It upheld the judgment of the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal in Abuja, which had earlier upheld the candidature of Mr. Hanga as the candidate of the party.
The Supreme Court has finally laid to rest the candidate for the Kano Central Senatorial District of the New Nigeria People's Party in the February 25 elections by declaring Mr. Rufai Hanga as the rightful winner. In the judgment prepared by Justice Owani Abaji and read by Justice Emmanuel Agim, the Supreme Court held that the appeal by the Independent National Electoral Commission lacked merit and substance and dismissed the appeal. The Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal had in their previous judgments upheld Mr. Rufai Hanga as a senatorial candidate of the NNPP for Kano Central, following the withdrawal of Mr. Ibrahim Shekarau as a member of the party due to irreconcilable differences with the leadership of the party. Rather than obeying the Federal High Court order, INEC appealed the judgment at the Appellate Court and lost. The Apex Court faulted the refusal of INEC to replace Mr. Shekarau before the election.
I thought we have resolved this matter.
The former governor of Kano State, Ibrahim Shekarau, was declared winner of the Kano Central Senatorial District election under the New Nigeria People's Party, despite his resignation from the party before the election. However, the NNPP rejected Shekarau as the right candidate for the election, alleging that INEC refused to replace Mr. Shekarau's name with the candidate the NNPP nominated for the election, which is Mr. Rufai Hanga.
Meanwhile, INEC chairman has described as misplaced the call by the People's Democratic Party for the resignation of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. In a statement, the chief press secretary to the INEC chairman said the PDP did not provide any convincing evidence to back up what he describes as the spurious allegations it listed as Professor Yakubu's infractions of the Electoral Act 2022. He further explains that the PDP also did not give the evidence to prove its claims that Professor Yakubu sabotaged the uploading and transmission of results from polling units. It is common knowledge that the PDP has rejected the outcome of the presidential election and has vowed to challenge it in court, saying it should pursue its case accordingly. He reminds the party that making libelous allegations against the person of the INEC chairman is actionable and that it should henceforth desist from the practice. The rescheduling of the governorship and Houses of Assembly elections appear to be having more consequences than expected. But this time, the National Population Commission said that it could affect the date of the commencement of the 2023 National Housing and Population Census earlier slated for March the 29th. And that's according to the chairman of the NPC, Mr. Nasir Kwara, who was speaking at a meeting with the resident representative of the United Nations Population Fund in Abuja. Although no new date has been fixed for the exercise, Mr. Kwara told reporters that he will consult with the president for a suitable date.
This meeting is part of several others which are aimed at delivering a credible national population and housing census. The United Nations Population Fund is partnering with the National Population Commission to ensure a successful exercise. The agency provides high-capacity computers to support the post-enumeration survey.
A lot of the support coming from UNFPA is by nature only catalytic. The price tag on a census like the one in Nigeria means that we will not in any shape or form be able to do this alone. We will, however, be able to provide the critical inputs, the technical inputs, and also what we are doing here today, the equipment needed to ensure that we do perform a proper post-enumeration survey.
The United Nations Population Fund is particular about the credibility of the census, seeing its significance to the Sustainable Development Goals.
Nigeria needs a good census, and therefore they also need a good post-enumeration survey. This census will be transformational for Nigeria. It is also fully digital and employ methodologies and technological innovations that guarantees the quality and timely results of the census, and it will be conducted up to international standards.
The census is scheduled to start on March the 29th, and the postponement of the state elections by a week could impact on the date for the exercise.
A way it may, because we have our timeline. But I am not in a position to say when until Mr. President himself approves. We are making recommendations to him. Over the years, UNFPA's partnership with MPC and support to Nigeria at large has been invaluable in propelling the vision and mission of the Commission forward in its bid to strive for demographic excellence, a successful and fully digital population and housing census 2023, and in turn the post-enumeration survey.
The Population and Housing Census provides a platform for the government to get statistics that will aid its plans for national development.
In Bauchi State, one person has been reported dead and 14 others injured following the violence that broke out during the campaign of the All Progressives Congress governorship candidates for Bauchi State, retired Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar. The Bauchi State Police says an investigation has started, promising that the perpetrators will be brought to book. Our correspondent Hajara Aliyu reports.
Hawa and her co-wife are the latest victims of political violence in Bauchi State. Their husband, late Muhammad Abdullahi, a community leader, was shot dead during a clash in Duguri, Al-Kaleri local government area of Bauchi State.
He was reluctant to go out. He prayed, nodded his head and stepped out. That was it. We couldn't say goodbye. We didn't even see his corpse.
According to the police, the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress was in Duguri, the hometown of Governor Bala Mohammed, to campaign when violence erupted on Wednesday evening. 14 people were injured and some of them are still receiving treatment in the hospital. The incident left several cars damaged. The APC and PDP trade blame over who is responsible for the incident.
Is gang leader or leaders who led today's thuggery, unleashed terror, intimidation on the people of Duguri town. They left several others injured and killed one Malami Mungwashata through a gunshot.
The allegation was is false, unfounded, and malicious. Instead of what the PDP and their sponsored hoodlums were saying, it was the campaign team of Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar that was attacked.
Governor Mohammed visits Duguri to condole the people, especially the family of late Abdullahi, urging the people to exercise restraint.
I will take the matter to the highest level. There is nobody above the law, even including myself, who has immunity. Certainly will not agree.
Air Marshal Sadiq was also in the hospital to visit the victims. Recall that a similar incident was recorded in Akuyam a month ago, which led to the death of one. Hajara Ali, Channels Television News.
The campaign convoy of the Labour Party governorship candidates in Kaduna State, Mr. Jonathan Asake, was attacked today by hoodlums suspected to be political thugs at Gidanwaya in Jama local government area of the state. According to the spokesman of the Labour Party candidate, Mr. James Swam, the incident happened when the campaign convoy was passing through Gidanwaya on its way to Godogodo and other towns as part of the campaign team tour of the local government. He explains that after the first 3 vehicles in the convoy managed their way through, the old tires placed on the road, thugs started throwing stones, sticks and other objects at the long convoy before the timely intervention of security personnel attached to the candidate to forestall a crisis. He, however, says the 4 people, including 2 boys and 2 girls, were injured during the attack. In part 2, after the break, 29 farmers killed after suspected Boko Haram terrorists attack Mugdolo community in the Lake Chad area of Borno State. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Only INEC can determine the mode of collating and transmitting of election results, rules Federal High Court Abuja maintains that manual transmission of the 2023 general election results is in line with Electoral Act 2022. PDP calls for the resignation and investigation of INEC chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu for allegedly breaching the provisions of the 2022 electoral law in the conduct of the February 25 presidential election. National Population Commission rules out conduct of the 2023 population and housing census on March the 29th as earlier planned, owing to postponement of the state-level elections by INEC. And police say 7 people, including an unborn baby, have been killed in a shooting at a Jehovah's Witness meeting hall in the German city of Hamburg. Ahead of the March 18th state elections, the Deputy Inspector General of Police on election duty in the 6 northeast states, Mr. Ali Janga, is asking police officers in the zone to be vigilant during the polls. He gave the charge when he met senior police officers in the zone at the Gombe State Police Command, where he asked them to prevent any tampering with results of elections. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 presidential poll, Mr. Peter Obi, has paid a condolence visit to the family of the slain senatorial candidate of the Labour Party for Enugu East Senatorial District, Mr. Oyibo Chukwu. Mr. Peter Obi appealed to the people of Amure in Kano West local government area of Enugu State, the hometown of Mr. Chukwu, to remain calm because justice will be done, as the party will not rest until those who killed him are brought to book. He later campaigned in Abia State for the governorship candidate of the party, Mr. Alex Oti, where he asked the people of the state to support Labour Party candidates, as the commitment of the party to a new Nigeria will be both at the federal and the state levels.
Mr. Peter Obi arrives at the country home of the murdered Labour Party senatorial candidate in Enugu East Senatorial District, Oyibo Chukwu. He is accompanied by the governorship candidates of the party in Enugu and Abia States, as well as the national chairman of the party, Julius Abure, and party stalwarts. In the charged atmosphere, Mr. Peter Obi calls for calm and promises not to abandon the family of Mr. Chukwu.
As a party, to pay condolence to the family of Oyibo Chukwu and the entire Chukwu family, Amuri, Pam, and the Enugu community, on a very sad death of our own senatorial candidate, our brother, our father, one of us who were in this journey with us. But like I always said, I know the enemies killed him. However, I always say God called him home.
The national chairman of the party also prays for the repose of the soul of the late lawyer and tells the people that the party has fulfilled the promise made to the family.
We believe that this community has what it takes to give a quality representation in the Senate to this senatorial district and to this community. We are going. And that's why today I have the honor and privilege to also inform you that a family member from here is the one that is replacing the dead one. And we are supporting him, we are supporting him. He's going. He's going. I appreciate the fact that we are not here to campaign. We are here in a sorrowful mood. We are here to pay our condolences. But we must state the obvious, that we believe in this family.
Mr. Peter Obi then moves to the Umunechi local government area of Abia State, where he campaigned for Mr. Alex Oti, the governorship candidate of the Labour Party, and Labour Party candidates for the State House of Assembly.
Well, let's take you back to the story we told you earlier about the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, calling for the resignation and investigation of the chairman of INEC for allegedly breaching the provisions of the 2022 electoral law. The spokesperson for the PDP, Mr. Debo Ologunagba, made the call at a news conference in Abuja, where he accused the INEC boss of, in his words, criminal manipulation of the February 25 presidential election results. Mr. Ologunagba also calls on the Inspector General of Police, the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and the Department of State Services to immediately commence investigation of the INEC chairman.
The People's Democratic Party has further reviewed the widely condemned infractions, brazen violation of the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022, criminal manipulation and alteration of election results perpetrated by the Professor Mahmoud Yakubu-led Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to subvert the will of Nigerians in the February 25, 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections. From all indications, the INEC under Professor Mahmoud Yakubu was compromised to rig the election by brazenly violating the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022, as well as INEC's regulations, guidelines, and manual issued for the election. Consequently, the PDP demands that the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, immediately step down from office, having abused the confidence and dashed the hope of millions of Nigerians as well as political parties and the international community for a free, fair, and credible election. Furthermore, the PDP demands that the Inspector General of Police and the Director General of the Directorate of State Services, DSS, immediately commence investigation into the electoral violations and manipulations by INEC with the view to prosecuting Professor Mahmoud Yakubu and other officials of the Commission for electoral offenses.
Meanwhile, the INEC chairman has described as misplaced the call by the People's Democratic Party for his resignation. In a statement, the chief press secretary to the INEC chairman said the PDP did not provide any convincing evidence to back up what it describes as the allegations it listed as Professor Yakubu's infractions of the Electoral Act 2022. He further explains that the PDP also did not give the evidence to prove its claims that Professor Yakubu sabotaged the uploading and transmission of results from polling units. It is common knowledge that the PDP has rejected the outcome of the presidential election and has vowed to challenge it in court, saying it should pursue its case accordingly. He reminds the party that making libelous allegations against the person of the INEC chairman is actionable and that it should henceforth desist from the practice. Security matters now. Not less than 29 fishermen from Mukdolo community located on the Dikwangala Road in Borno State have been killed by suspected Boko Haram terrorists while fishing in the Lake Chad area. Mukdolo village is in Gamboru Ngala local government area, which is a border town between Nigeria and Cameroon on the fringes of the Lake Chad basin. It was gathered that the fishermen were killed by terrorists who rode on motorcycles and shot sporadically, killing 29 of the farmers, while 7 others barely escaped with various degrees of injuries. The acting Deputy Director, Army Public Relations, 7th Division and Sector 1 Operation Hadinkai, Lieutenant Colonel Ajemasu Jingina, said on getting the news from those who escaped, security operatives were mobilized alongside the civilian JTF to the scene at which the time the attackers had fled. Meanwhile, the United Nations resident and humanitarian coordinator in Nigeria, Mr. Matthias Shamle, has condemned the attack in a statement. The UN envoy expressed sadness over the incident, saying that several civilians were still missing following the incident. Well, we have more stories for you, but this time we're heading to our studios in Abuja, where Gloria Mezoke is standing by to give us more. Hello, Gloria.
Thank you, Anne. Here in Abuja, let's return to campaign issues, this time in Rivers State, where Governor Nyesom Wike is calling on the residents to vote for the PDP in the state during the March 18th governorship and state assembly elections. It says, unlike in the presidential election, the votes in the upcoming polls should not be split in order to retain the PDP in power for more development in the state. Governor Wike made this request during the commissioning of the Akpabu-Egbeda Road in the Emoha local government area.
2 months after it was flagged off for construction, the Akpabu-Egbeda Road in Emoha local government area of Rivers State is ready for commissioning. Governor Nyesom Wike and his entourage are welcomed to a warm reception with the rare display of the women's wrestling contest. In words, community leaders pledged to pay back the PDP-led administration in the state.
Akpabu-Egbeda linking to Omok is one of the most important roads you've done for us. The people say I should tell you they are grateful and they will follow you.
Can we not see what is happening? That it is visible to the blind and it is audible to the deaf. Your Excellency, once again, you are welcome to our local government area, your home.
For Governor Wike, the 2 months completion deadline demonstrates the seriousness of his administration to deliver on projects.
The job was started 3-4 months ago, and the job has been completed. Again, that shows how serious, that shows how important we are committed to delivering the dividends of democracy. And I commend the contractor. Yesterday, we were at Igruta, commissioning the internal roads of Igruta. The same contractor. Today, we are here, commissioning the Akpabu-Egbeda, the same contractor. Promises made, promises fulfilled.
Wike again mocked the black uniform protest by the PDP against the presidential election, but says, unlike the February 25th elections, all the ballots in the March 18 governorship and state assembly elections should be cast for the PDP in Rivers State.
So whether you voted for Obi, you voted for Suwaju, I have no problem with any of you. At first, you stood for Southern presidency. But this one we are going on Saturday is one that is our own permanently.
The road is then commissioned. Beyond the advantage of serving as an alternate route to some major roads like the East-West Road, the project will open up an expanse of land for farming and ease the transportation of farm produce.
Governor Godwin Obaseki says the old 500 naira and 1,000 naira notes will continue to be legal tenders in Edo State till December 31st, 2023, as ordered by the Supreme Court. In line with this, he has directed that business owners and particularly filling stations would be shut down immediately for flouting this order. Mr. Obaseki said this when he led the PDP campaign train to some transport unions in Benin City, the state capital, ahead of the March 18, 2023 State House of Assembly election.
I don't tell Edo people. The old money, una still the user. Una hear? The old money na legal tender till December this year. That's what Supreme Court talk. So any petrol station will not take old money from that. Let us know. We will close them down. Everybody for market, old money, new money, and the same, not the user. Is that clear? Yes, the suffer done too much. So that Saturday old, we understand what will happen. We not deceive ourselves. Who first talk about obedience for this country? Don't be me. I say I'm the come and tell them they don't hear that time. But that one don't pass. That's a national election. The one when they go next Saturday, now our own. Now on our own. Now, how to send our people to House of Assembly when they go represent us.
Back to the courts, Justice Modupe Osho Adebiyi of the FCT High Court, Gudu, has ordered the sureties to a director in the Process and Industrial Development Limited, P&ID, James Nolan, to produce him before the court in September 2023 or risk forfeiting their bonds to the federal government. Nolan, an Irish, is facing trial on an 11-count charge bordering on forgery, stealing and felony to the tune of over 100 naira, 150 million naira. At the resumed trial of the defendant on Thursday, Justice Osho Adebiyi condemned the non-appearance of Nolan in court, even after a series of adjournments to enable his counsel produce him for trial. The shorties, Adebisi Solomon and Michael Iyage, are said to have failed on several occasions to account for the whereabouts of the defendant after securing his bail. Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Gloria. Still ahead on the news at 10. FBN Quest projects 3.2% higher economic growth for Nigeria this year on post-election economic reforms, equities market gains, and higher interest rates. And that's in business news. Join us again. Welcome back. The Kogi state government says that it is determined to improve the welfare and working condition of workers in the state through prompt payment of salaries and allowances. The state's head of service, Mrs. Hannah Odiyo, stated this in Lokoja during the 8th conference of the state chapter of the Nigeria Labour Congress.
Victory! Public workers in Kogi State have gathered at the NUT Hall in Lokoja, the state capital, for the 8th Quadrennial Delegate Conference of the State Council of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Governor Yahaya Bello is the special guest of honor, and he is represented at the event by the state head of service, who is attending with some good news for the workers.
The screening, as he mentioned, it wasn't bad. It's just that there is no perfect process. And then many cases were reviewed. The bad eggs, we were able to get rid of them to a large extent. Save funds for the state that made recruitment possible thereafter. A few recruitment cases, which was made possible because of that screening exercise.
The executive officers of the state chapter of the Congress take their oath of office as they are admonished on the task ahead.
Because we have not had any negative report from Kogi, and so we have not had any in the recent time. I know before, but in recent time, so I give it up to the governor and our fraternity message to the governor, ma. We appreciate him for the infrastructures. We appreciate him for the friendly labor relations. We appreciate him for all that he has done.
This government has consistently paid its workers of Kogi State 100% of salary. I think we have a credit to give to them and tell the government that they have done very, very well in that aspect.
For the next 4 years, the task ahead of the new executive is to ensure that workers are properly catered for, just as the executive is planning to adopt a different approach to it.
I'm not aware of all the problems and challenges facing workers of Kogi State, but I want to assure you that we are going to apply diplomacy, dialogue, persuasion in getting back all our demand from the government.
The Congress wants the state governments to establish a quarterly meeting with the organized labor in the state, where issues would be discussed and resolved to boost industrial harmony in the state.
One day after the deadly collision of a train and a bus in Lagos, 32 of those who survived the accidents have now been discharged. The Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, made this known at a press conference held at the State University Teaching Hospital, LASUTH, where the injured were being treated. Professor Abayomi says a total of 102 casualties was recorded yesterday as a result of that collision, and the fatality still stands at 6. A day after a train and Lagos State staff bus collided at the Shogunle railway crossing in Ikeja, The Lagos State University Teaching Hospital is still busy taking care of the victims. Some family members of the victims are here for their loved ones.
My junior sister is here and he has already died since yesterday. He's working at Lasut here. She was in the bus coming to work. The children are very small. The eldest one is 22 years. So that's why they said that they should go and call elder somebody to come with them.
We can see that he's very conscious and we thank God for that. I sincerely appreciate the Lagos State government and also all the medical staffs and the medical team that supported and that saved the lives of so many Lagosians today.
The blood donation center is also busy as voluntary donors make their way in to contribute to saving more lives.
I'm a driver, so I drive all these commercial small boats. So I hear the incident on radio, and I hear when our governor said they need more blood to donate. So that's why I decided today that I will give it out if I'm capable to do it. And by God's grace, they check me, I'm capable. I don't have any disease, so I'll give it out.
We are Nigerians and we have to bring life back to the States. What really happened is terrible and everybody needs love and care. And if I have blood, why can't I donate? It's free. So I should give it freely.
During a press conference at Lasut, the State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, gives an update on the situation.
We have discharged 19 passengers from Lasut. But I am also aware that at the other hospitals where we referred patients to who are moderate to mild injuries, many of them are being prepared for discharge this morning. And the information I have right now is that at toll gate, accident and emergency, they are about to discharge 5, in addition to the 19 that we discharged here. And also at Orile Agege, where we sent 10 passengers, we are about to discharge 8 from Orile Agege.
The Chief Medical Director of Lasut, Professor Adetokunbo Fabanwo, also reacts to the news of triage center operation adopted for the victims.
I'd like to seize the opportunity to say that we triaged in compliance with international best practice. When you have huge numbers of casualties, there is no way that you can have vacant or empty emergency bed spaces to put them. So the whole idea is to put them in an open space so that you can clearly see the injuries that they have. Health workers who are numbering over 100 will be able to move around freely to be able to ascertain the kind of injuries they were dealing with. That is the principle of triaging. So this nonsensical talk about treating people on the floor should stop. People should stop criticizing us about that. That is the way it's normally done. And we were able to achieve our objectives.
Wife of the president-elect, Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, alongside the wife of the Lagos State Governor, Dr. Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu, are here to commiserate with the victims at Lasut. She also makes a stopover at the Bagada General Hospital and the State Accident and Emergency Center, where other victims are being taken care of. Meanwhile, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State today paid a condolence visit to some families of the state government staff who were involved in that accident. Mr. Sanwo-Olu, first, the governor visited the family of Ms. Oreoluwa Aino, a youth corps member who was undergoing her National Youth Service at the State Ministry of Education. He also visited the home of 54-year-old Mrs. Victoria Johnson, a social welfare officer of the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital, who lost her life in the accident. Governor Sanwo-Olu also visited alongside a state head of service and some cabinet members. We're also at the family home of Esther Rakosu, who's a staff of Lagos Internal Revenue Service, who also died as a result of the collision. Meanwhile, flags are flying at half-mast at government offices in the state, in line with the governor's directive to mourn the victims of the accident. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of those involved. Now we have more on business news. Here's Will to give us more.
Thanks, Anne. FBN Quest has forecast Nigeria's economy to grow by 3.2% this year, up from 3.1% in 2022, despite economic challenges caused by the naira scarcity and short fuel supply. In its latest report tagged 2023 Economic and Industry Outlook, the Merchant Banking and Asset Management arm of FBN Holdings attributes the growth projection to post-election economic reforms, modest gains in the equities market, and higher interest rates. It explains that the transition of power and the commencement of the new administration's term will set the tone for the second half of the year, as the new government is expected to implement reforms that will stimulate growth and investments. Now, the African Development Bank, AFDB, and the Coalition for Dialogue on Africa, CODA, have officially launched a 3-year support project to improve regional coherence and coordinated response to illicit financial flows. A statement released on the AFDB's website says the project aims to improve regional coordination of combating illicit financial flows and the oversight and accountability of the public finances for optimal revenue mobilization and management in African countries. The project would help African stakeholders actively engaged in stemming such flows to improve domestic revenue mobilization on the continent. Now, outside of Nigeria, Standard & Poor's has revised South Africa's outlook from positive to stable due to issues such as ongoing power cuts and other infrastructure challenges. Additionally, the agency has expressed concerns about the sluggish progress of implementing structural reforms, addressing governance issues, and the performance of state-owned enterprises. S&P highlights that potential liabilities from these entities continue to threaten the country's fiscal and debt positions. Back home, the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation has warned bank customers in the country about evolving fraud cases in the system. In a statement released today, the NDIC pointed out that fraudsters have become more creative in their tactics across various transactions channels, especially mobile or USSD, which is reported to have the highest number of fraud occurrence. The NDIC advises bank customers not to expose their bank details, such as debit card and card verification value numbers, to anyone. Meanwhile, recent report by Financial Institutions Training Center, FITC, shows that 1.17 billion naira was lost to fraud across 24 banks in Nigeria within the second quarter of last year. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of Seplat Energy PLC, Roger Brown, has stepped aside from management activities for a 7-day period following an order by Lagos Federal High Court. This comes after several allegations of unfair and prejudicial actions were made against him by the chairman and all independent non-executive directors of the energy company. However, Seplat Energy, in a statement, refutes the allegations of favoritism and other accusations leveled against the embattled CEO, but says it will follow the due process in responding before the court. Meanwhile, the company's board has picked the Chief Operating Officer, Samson Ezugore, as acting Chief Executive Officer for the period Mr. Brown will be away from duties as CEO. Now, Nigeria's stock market ends Friday trading session with a 15 billion naira drop in the total value of listed equities as investors switch to profit-taking mode on some high-value stocks. John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market reports. Well, the NGX closed negative today, losing the marginal increase recorded on the all-share index on Thursday. That's why we see the all-share index is in the red. Marginally, though, 0.05%, and we're still holding on to G55,000, while the market cap is still on 30 trillion naira. Market movers today, corn oil again, a second time. Subsequently, yesterday, it lost more than 4 naira. Today, the same thing. And at the close of trade, it had 27 million naira transaction on the market, while Honeywell also followed, moving the market in the negative direction after trading 2.4 million naira. That drives us to the sectors, where we look at the sectors, and, well, I don't think we have to say much, because if corn oil was down more than 4 naira, then oil and gas had to be down 0.54%, as well as our lovely banking, the most liquefied counter there, and because of Honeywell, of course,
Consumer goods was also down 0.04%. What a way to end the week. But we'll not lose hope. We'll continue again next week. That's the stock market report. Amini John Mekwa is back to you. And that's it on business news. It's back to you, Anne, for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Will Ibong. Now, a gunman has killed several people in a church in Hamburg in the northern part of Germany. He was visited by police last month after a tip-off raising concerns about his mental health and anger towards religious believers, especially Jehovah's Witnesses. Police say he was cooperative and had an open conversation with the officers, so there was no ground to take away the gun from him at the time. Here's Simon Pusey with more on this and other stories in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Police say 7 people, including an unborn baby, have been killed in a shooting at a Jehovah's Witness meeting hall in the German city of Hamburg. Here, footage filmed by a local resident of the suspect shooting through an open window. It's thought he acted alone and later took his own life. Here, police storming the building. The suspect, named only as Philip F., is said to have had ill feelings towards the religious community, of which he had previously been a member. At a briefing on Friday, the police said 4 men and 2 women were shot dead, and all were German nationals. 8 people were injured, 4 seriously. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said he was left speechless, and his thoughts went out to the victims and their relatives. China's leader Xi Jinping has secured a historic 3rd term as president from the country's rubber-stamp parliament. It follows a consolidation of power that has made Mr. Xi China's most dominant leader in generations. The so-called 2 sessions of the National People's Congress and the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference this week is closely watched as it provides a glimpse into China's direction in the coming years. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has agreed a deal with the French President Emmanuel Macron on trying to reduce the number of illegal migrants crossing the Channel. At a summit in Paris, it was agreed that for the first time the UK will help fund a migrant detention centre in France. It is hoped the agreement will reduce the number of people crossing illegally in small boats. Rishi Sunak says he wants a new chapter in relations with France.
Today we've taken our cooperation to an unprecedented level to tackle this shared challenge. We're announcing a new detention centre in northern France, a new command centre bringing our enforcement teams together in one place for the first time, and an extra 500 new officers patrolling French beaches, all underpinned by more drones and other surveillance technologies that will help ramp up the interception rate.
Georgia may have dropped the foreign agents law, but the director of the Georgian Institute of Politics says the crisis is far from over. Georgia's parliament on Friday dropped plans for a foreign agents bill that had triggered a political crisis and threatened to harm the country's bid for closer ties with Europe. Lawmakers voted against the legislation in the second reading on Friday after the ruling Georgian Dream Party pulled its support for the bill, following 3 nights of protests in the capital, Tbilisi.
I think they just lost tactically right now, but strategically I don't think that they will change, because at the end of the day this election is not just a normal election, because if they lose this election, they're afraid that there might be consequences, including some sort of political vendetta.
The World Meteorological Organization says one of the strongest storms ever recorded in the southern hemisphere may also have broken the world record as the longest-lasting tropical cyclone. Tropical storm Freddy is due to hit the coast of southern Africa again late on Friday or early Saturday, after killing at least 21 people in Mozambique and Madagascar when it first made landfall last month. Freddy was first named 33 days ago. The current record is held by a 31-day hurricane in 1994. More than 166,000 people have been affected when the cyclone swept through Mozambique 2 weeks ago, washing away roads and flooding houses and schools, according to the country's National Disaster Management Agency. And a big black and white cat has become an internet sensation and a major tourist attraction in the Polish city of Szczecin. Word is spreading across Poland about Gasek, who lives in a wooden house on a sidewalk near the city centre. The famous feline's address is Szczecin's most highly rated tourist attraction on Google Maps. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. Now, Nigeria's Flying Eagles played their best game at the Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations, beating the Carthage Eagles of Tunisia 4-0 in the third-place match. Having lost to Gambia 1-0 in the semi-final, the Flying Eagles were clinical in front of goal, scoring 4 from 6 shots on target. Ibrahim Mohammed scored the opening goal 9 minutes into the game as Nigeria took a 1-0 lead into the break. A minute into the second half, Ahmed Abdullahi made it 2, and it was 3 minutes later, courtesy of Jude Sunday. Sunday completed his brace in the 90th minute for Nigeria to claim a bronze medal.
The battle for third place at the Total Energies Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations. And it was Ahmed Abdullahi who doubled the lead in the second half. And then just 3 minutes later, Nigeria made it 3-0. Jude Sunday running past a couple of Tunisian players and then dancing into the box before firing beyond Aminala Memish. They would, though, get a fourth late on. Jude Sunday striking for the second time in the game. Aimed at man of the match, a patient build-up, and then a deadly finish from Jude Sunday. Tunisia finishing fourth for the second time running.
Clinical indeed. Now, Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola has warned his players to be more careful when out in public after Kyle Walker became the subject of a police investigation for allegedly exposing himself in a bar. Guardiola refused to comment on the matter on Friday, saying it was a private issue that would be resolved internally by the club, but said players must always be on their guard when they step out of the house. And Barcelona have been charged with corruption over payments the club made to Jose Maria Enriquez, Nigerian, a former vice president of Spain's referees committee. Last month, it emerged that Barca have paid Negreira and a company he owns a reported total of 8.4 million euros between 2001 and 2018. A Barcelona court heard on Friday that Barca, former club officials, and Negreira had been indicted for corruption, breach of trust, and false business records. These lawsuits brought by the Barcelona Public Prosecutor's Office target the club, as well as former presidents Josep Maria Bartomeu and Sandro Rosell. And away from football, former Formula One world champion Jenson Button is excited to play in what he describes as a family atmosphere after it was confirmed that he will feature in 3 NASCAR Cup Series this year. Button, who won the F1 championships in 2009, will make his Cup Series debut on March 26th at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, then compete in the inaugural Chicago Street Race on July the 2nd before racing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course on August the 13th. And that's a wrap on Sports News. It's back to Anne with the wrap of the news at 10. I'm Victor Matthias. Thank you for watching.
And the main news again. The Federal High Court in Abuja today ruled that only INEC can determine the mode of collating and transmitting of election results. The court maintained the manual transmission of the 2023 general election results was in line with Electoral Act 2022. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Mwawado. Have a wonderful weekend. Good night.